So if you tuned in last time, you know that began to start telling you guys about this cassette tape that I listened to, and I'm about to get into what it said. And if you didn't catch the preliminary to this, I suggest you tune in and check that out first. So, um, the tapes. It was Dr. Scott speaking from 1992, explaining how many years before, when he was going to Stanford University, he completely lost his faith. And I'm going to summarize a lot of this. A lot of this might not be verbatim. I don't have the transcript right in front of me at the moment. And he says that some of it was due to, and I quote, a subtle psychological pressure. That it was okay to believe in Jesus as a good and wise teacher, but not as God. And they would use this circular logic with him. Was that miracles can't happen, therefore they didn't happen because they can't happen. Therefore they didn't happen because they can't happen. And so on and so forth. When he started looking deeper into it, when you talk about any historical figure, you have to use what's commonly agreed upon as the most reliable source. And when you're talking about Jesus, that's typically the gospel records. And we usually don't dispute records. This is all stuff that he spoke about in there. We usually don't dispute records that come from sources of that era, like other kings or notable figures. But because the story of Jesus contains miracles, a lot of times you'll find that a lot of people do. But if you take away his miracles, and if you take away the idea of him as God, and you just have him as a good and wise teacher, that's acceptable. And you can earn your intellectual wings in the university, and your professor will say, all right. But those records I was talking about, they all have Jesus saying things that no other respected founder of any faith, any main faith, there might be some crazy ones out there here and there, the main faiths that we all know and respect, they don't say these kinds of they don't make the ridiculous claims that Jesus made about himself. Jesus said wild and crazy things, nuts. Muhammad never claimed to be God. He got his revelations from Allah, from God. Moses, he spoke to God. He said, I'm not worthy. He didn't claim to be God. Buddha said, this is the path that worked for me. Try it, it could work for you. And he never deified himself. He was only deified by his followers after his death. But Buddha never said he was perfect. He never said he was God. On the contrary, Jesus went around saying, I'm the way. I'm the truth. If there's no other way but through me. If you don't hate your father, mother, sister, brother, even your own life in comparison to me, you can't be my disciple. He spoke of heaven with the same familiarity that we'd speak of our own living rooms. He didn't say God forgives you. He said, I forgive you. He said, before the worlds were created, I was there. He put the center of the universe not in God, but in him. Countless times. And there'll be translations, like I know the Jehovah's Witnesses try to have their own translation of the Bible where they try to take out a lot of that, but it's still in there. There's a text in there where in the Jehovah's Witness Bible that says, I'm the Alpha and Omega who was pierced, who died for you. I believe it said. And you'd ask a Jehovah's Witness, who's the Alpha and Omega? They would say God, not Jesus, separating the two. So when did God die, though? He didn't. Jesus didn't. And that's a little conundrum in their translation. But anyway, that's not part of what I'm talking about now. If I brought you to church with me and my pastor said, I'm the way, I'm the truth, I'm the light, I was there before the world was created, I'm the center of the universe, and preached to themselves and their own righteousness and not God's righteousness, you would think I'm crazy. And you would think my pastor's crazy. See, why are you going to such a crazy nuts church? As a society, we do not make heroes out of people who think they are perfect. Forget about whether or not Jesus was perfect. The records show that he went around saying that he was perfect. So Dr. Scott very rightly pointed out, he could not be a good and wise teacher if he's not God. It is impossible. Because the records all show that he went around saying he was God. So he can be good, have a good heart, but he's not wise. He's a complete lunatic who believes all this nonsense about him that's not true, right? If you believe all this stuff, you believe you're God and you're really not, you could have a good heart, but you're not wise. You're Looney Tune. Or he can be wise, brilliant, in fact, deceiving the multitudes, deceiving people, making them believe he's God when he's really not. But if he's deceiving and lying, he may be wise, but he's not good. The only way that we can have any Jesus that walked the face of this earth, given all the records of what he said about himself, the only way that we can have a Jesus that is both good and wise at the same time, the only way is if he is what he says he is. That's it. He went around saying he was God. He had no sense of moral imperfection. He seated all authority in himself. He spoke of heaven with the same familiarity we speak of our living rooms. He went around saying this stuff. So immediately it puts Jesus out in the left field of all the other respected founders of religion, because he didn't preach God, he preached himself. No other founder of any religion, respected religion, has ever done that, ever. So you can't dispense him in the same category as a good and wise teacher. And then there was other things. And I'm skipping over a lot of it. I would be more than happy to share the link so you guys can actually read the transcript yourself or see the message. But I'm telling you in a nutshell what it said, things that stuck out to me that forever changed my life and my faith. For instance, what happened to the body? Most people don't argue a man named Jesus lived. Most people don't argue a man named Jesus died. Most people don't argue that he was crucified. The problem that people have is the resurrection, right? So if that tomb is empty, what happened? Did the Jewish leaders steal the body? Maybe they for some reason wanted to steal it, but it doesn't make sense, because they had more interest than anyone to produce the body, to be able to shut everyone up, to show, hey, look, he's really dead. See, he's not God. Not the Jewish people, but the Jewish leaders, it was at their behest that the Roman guards had killed Jesus. So they have more reason than anyone to produce the body, to show that he's really dead. So the Jewish leaders steal the body. How about the Romans? Did they steal the body? Well, similar situation. It's in their best interest to produce the body. If they stole it, produce it, show it. Did the disciples steal the body? The disciples would be the ones who actually would have an interest in stealing the body, because they all said Jesus is God, and it turns out he really wasn't, and he's just a regular guy who died, so let's steal it and pretend that he resurrected. But I'll get back to that in a second, why that doesn't hold weight, although hold water. But let's also remember that's the only one so far that would have an interest in that. How about the women? Did the women go to the wrong tomb? Well, that's easy. Go to the right tomb. The women who discovered the empty body, did they go to the wrong tomb and they went to an empty tomb, although that's not the right tomb Jesus was in? Well, that's easy to prove. Go to the right tomb and see it. Did dogs eat the body? Maybe over the course of time, the dogs ate the body. Well, that doesn't really make sense either, because it was in 3 days and there would be bones and okay. Still, remember, there was a big stone in front. There was Roman guards there, but okay. Maybe he wasn't really dead. Maybe they thought he killed him. They didn't really kill him. In the coolness of the tomb, he resuscitated and he was able to walk out. And here comes Frankenstein Jesus, which is not the same Christ that they said they were eyewitness to. It was a fully healed and resurrected Christ. But okay, let's just say he was able to somehow, stumble out of there and push away the big rock and push away the. Remember, at this point, we're guessing he's just a man. Doesn't have any superhuman abilities, and somehow he's able to survive a Roman crucifixion, which does not happen, and then is able to get the stone and the guard away. I mean, this stuff doesn't happen, but okay. And going through and there's more things people come up with what happened to the body. But going through each one of these, why they don't make sense. It was brilliant. And he was open. He had an open mind, open to finding out proof that it's all a fairy tale. But the more you dig, the more you find proof that it's not. I'm not even talking about prophecy that we see in our own eyes coming to pass. I'm not even getting there. I'm just talking about what Dr. Scott spoke about in this teaching. Now, when I talked about the disciples being the only one out of this group who actually had a reason to steal the body if they were going to do it, remember, they didn't just preach a empty tomb. They preached seeing with their own eyes a resurrected and ascended Christ. And let's just say they all came up with this lie, okay? We're gonna say that this Jesus guy that we're gonna say we saw him resurrect and ascend because we don't want to look bad, we don't want to look dumb or whatever, we don't want to look like we were wrong, and everyone agreed to it. And you take all the eyewitnesses, the supposed eyewitnesses, and you put them all in a room, and you hold the blade up to their neck, and you say, admit it. Admit that you were lying. Admit that it's all nonsense, and I'll let you go. I won't kill you. Possibly, you don't want to let the other members that you made this pact with, you don't want to let them down. So you stick with the lie, and you hold on to that lie. And you pay the price. You die a martyr's death. And you die that martyr's death for a lie. Is that conceivable? Not really, but okay. Okay, maybe possibly you don't want to let the other people down. You made this pact with them. You don't want to let the disciples down. You don't, the other eyewitnesses. But that's not what happened. They each died, except John. They each died a horrible martyr's death. Did they pay that price for a lie? And they died alone. So there was not the group pressure. There was not, I don't want to let the other guys down. They were alone. And there was no TV, no internet, no radio, no newspapers, nothing. They were scattered on different continents. They could put the knife to my head. They say, admit you were lying. Admit you never saw this Jesus resurrect. And I could say, all right, I was lying. Let me go, let me go. They let me go. I'll never see you again. You'll never know that I reneged on the story. And if by some chance I ever did see you again, I could make up some, oh yeah, they tried to get me to, to turn away, but I stuck to my guns. I stuck to the story, and I wouldn't I let them have it. You wouldn't know I'm lying. But they paid the price of their life alone, without any group pressure. And did they pay that price for a lie? And then the change in their behavior. An event like that changes you. Some people say, well, what if they had hallucinations, mass hallucinations? They ate some magic mushrooms, they had hallucinations, they thought they saw Jesus ascend. And Dr. Scott rightly pointed out, you can have experts in that field come up and they'll all testify. You do not have mass hallucinations where every single person hallucinates the same exact thing. Does not happen. The hallucinations would be vastly different, or at least different. They all saw the same thing. The ascended and the resurrected and then ascended Christ. I'm not doing this 1 hour teaching any justice. Dr. Scott laid it out much more beautifully, and I'd be more than happy to share a link to that. But in a nutshell, it was a teaching that didn't have the feel the spirit, or feel this, don't drink, don't smoke, don't cuss, don't have sex, don't do this, do that, do this, don't do that, your hair's too long, your hair's too short, this tattoo, didn't have any of that. Had logical teaching that you build your faith on a fact, and the fact does not change. Feelings change, facts do not. So, in a nutshell, that is what completely solidified my faith. Anyway, tune in next time. I don't know if I spoke about my full experiences yet, but if not, that's what I'll speak about next time. And then if I have, I gotta rewind and check out what I spoke about last time. But if not, then I'm going to start teaching on some subjects that I've learned that have meant a great deal to me, that I would also like to share. And once again, I'm like a D- student. I encourage everyone to check out Pastor Scott, because she knows her stuff. Really, really does. And I try to get as much information as possible, and I feel that I got the crux of what the Bible is about, but it's so much more. And no matter how much we learn, we can read that Bible 10 billion times and still each time learn new truths over and over again. Anyway, God bless you all, and thank you for tuning in. Until next time.